talk about Sonic the Hedgehog? Isn't it like an anniversary or something? Or a significant number of anniversaries for Sonic the Hedgehog?
So I'm gonna talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, which is my all-time favorite video game series. But I'm not just gonna talk about enjoying the Sonic the Hedgehog series. I'm gonna talk about how Sonic the Hedgehog improved my overall video game experience above and beyond the Sonic video game series itself. Hello, Universe. I'm here to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. Why? What's special about Sonic the Hedgehog? Well, I'm thinking 1991. That was the year Sonic the Hedgehog was released. And this is 2016. This is 2016 is an answer people known as social justice warriors are known for giving, and it pissing off a lot of people. Actually, of the things the social justice warriors have done, that doesn't bother me, you know. It's 2016. That's why we don't have a problem with female Ghostbusters. We hate reboots. Take that, social justice warriors. That's really getting off topic. If you can hear me over the waves next to me, I'm here to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. And if I've done my math correctly, I'm thinking it's the 25th anniversary for Sonic the Hedgehog, which would be the perfect mascot for the 16-bit era, as well as the mascot for Sega, because, well, the 16-bit era, the Sega Genesis was the #1 seller. Long run, the Super Nintendo sold more, but that had more to do with what Sega did with the Genesis or Mega Drive, as they tried to phase in the Saturn, compared to Nintendo hanging on to the Super Nintendo for a surprisingly long amount of time, especially with even after the Nintendo 64 came out. Good move, Nintendo. Too bad you didn't keep the GameCube around that long. Anyway, yeah, I like the GameCube. I also like the Dreamcast, and the original Xbox, and the Super Nintendo, and above all else, I really like the Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis. Pac-Man would be the mascot for all video games. Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog is not just the mascot for Sega. I'd say it's the mascot for the 16-bit era. And Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog and Ghostbusters were two of the things that got me interested in the Sega Genesis, which became my all-time favorite video game system. And why I even know what a mono grinder is. Because if not for my Sega Genesis, which I got because it had Sonic the Hedgehog and Ghostbusters on it, plus I really loved the Super Nintendo, but early on, Super Mario World, the 16-bit Legend of Zelda, the Turtles 4, those games did not entertain me as well as their 8-bit counterparts, and I had a fair bit of apathy to the Super Nintendo early on. That played a role in me getting a Sega Genesis. But I had been a hardcore Nintendo fan. The Nintendo Entertainment System had an important role in cementing my interest in the video game industry. I had a ColecoVision with the Atari 2600 adapter. If I knew about more of the good Atari games out there, I probably would have had a lot more fun with that than I did. I really wanted a Commodore 64. Couldn't afford one. Got a Nintendo Entertainment System, and that was actually pretty impressive. Loved Nintendo so much I had to get a Game Boy. But I paused on the Super Nintendo. It just... I'm not going to get into why it disappointed me, but I knew of the TurboGrafx 16. I remember ads for Blazing Lasers. But Sega's ads, they had one ad that had 3 different games in it, each of which looked interesting, plus Ghostbusters. And then there were ads in magazines as well as on television for Sonic the Hedgehog. And normally if I have a reason to talk about a video game, I want to talk about the things in it. You know, I want to talk about how fascinating the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic the Hedgehog were as a concept. Chaos, elemental chaos. It's like the material that all other mystical elements came from. That's basically the concept of chaos. You know, and Sonic's world and power seem connected to Chaos Emeralds. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, chaos. Greek mythology. Chaos is the mysterious force that created the universe. You know, that whole space-time continuum. Yeah, chaos. The power rings that are connected to the Chaos Emeralds. They're rings, they're loops, like little loops of energy. I thought that was an interesting structure, interesting concept. And the world of Sonic the Hedgehog was actually kind of interesting, beyond the fact it was a little cartoon character, humanoid hedgehog in a strange, distorted, Earth-like world with little floating platforms all over the place, probably levitated by the power of chaos. Yeah, I could talk about that. Oh, and those power rings, they even appeared in Bayonetta, and Bayonetta was awesome. Yeah, I know, they're halos from angels that she defeats, whatever. They're power rings. They're power rings. They are power rings. And also awesome about Bayonetta is her fantasy zone, despite all her perverted kinks, her fantasy zone is Space Harrier. Yeah, when I got the Sega Genesis, Sonic the Hedgehog was a major influence in me deciding to get a Sega Genesis and actually jumping ship from only having Nintendo consoles. Those waves are kind of noisy. Maybe this was a bad place to record this. But, yeah, the Sega Genesis was awesome. My all-time favorite game, Phantasy Star 4, the Phantasy Star series. That's why I know about Mono Grinders, even if, you know, Mono Grinders are more of a Phantasy Star Online sort of thing. I got into Sega games thanks to the Sega Genesis, the power-based converter. I was finally able to check out Sega Master System games. So thanks to Sonic the Hedgehog, who I think is the perfect example of a mascot for the 16-bit era, thanks to Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega's mascot, I got the Sega Genesis, my all-time favorite video game console, and that's my thoughts on Sonic's 25th anniversary. And I'm not really sure what Sega's doing for Sonic the Hedgehog's anniversary, but it's worth looking into. So happy anniversary, Sonic the Hedgehog. And it's worth remembering all those amazing Sega franchises like Phantasy Star and Shinobi and Streets of Rage, and the one that I wanted to say but didn't say, which is actually Golden Axe. There were a lot of interesting games I came across by accident that I really liked because they were Sega games, and I got my Sega Genesis partly due to Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic & Knuckles, Sonic CD. All because Sonic the Hedgehog 1 looked interesting to me. I knew about these games. Getting the Sega Genesis, one of my favorite Ninja Turtles games is on the Sega Genesis. One of my favorite Ghostbusters games. Vector Man, another Sega game. One of my all-time favorite video games. And it led to me getting future game systems like the Saturn and the Dreamcast, and even older systems like a Sega Master System, even though I already had a power-based converter, and even a Sega SG-1000. And Game Gear, can't forget the Game Gear, and the Genesis Nomad. Yeah. Thanks to Sonic the Hedgehog, I have had a better video game experience in general. So I'm glad that Sonic the Hedgehog exists, and the games aren't really at their best anymore. I loved them in 16-bit, two-dimensional form. 3D, actually, he had an awesome transition to 3D. I thought Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 were awesome. Sonic the Hedgehog commercials looked interesting. And there was a Ghostbusters game on it. Two things together brought me to the Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis.